Donald Trump is panicking as Iran has him trapped in the memorandum of understanding that he signed, and Iran is issuing a warning. Stop misrepresenting the terms of the MOU, or you are going to create the circumstances for yet another breach of the MOU, in which case we will shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has never agreed to allow IAEA inspectors to the Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran has not agreed to purchase American soybeans and corn and other produce with the funds that have been unfrozen, totaling close to $12 billion. And Iran has no restrictions on what it will do with the oil that it is now shipping out, since the sanctions against its oil and its tankers has been lifted as well. Iran is making billions and billions of dollars every day, while Donald Trump is flailing. This is what Donald Trump is posting, and then I'll share with you what's actually going on throughout the world right now. Donald Trump posted, despite their protestations and false statements to the contrary, coupled with the drumbeat of the fake news, which is doing everything possible to make the U.S. victory as small and insignificant as possible, Iran has fully and completely agreed to highest level nuclear inspections long into the future. Infinity, Donald Trump writes. This will ensure nuclear honesty. If they did not agree to this, there would be no further negotiations. Based on this and other major concessions being made by Iran, I have agreed to allow the Hormuz Strait to remain open with no further naval blockade. However, all ships are remaining in place should it be necessary to reinstitute the blockade, which seems at this point highly unlikely. The money and/or sanctions that the U.S. Treasury is releasing goes into escrow controlled by the USA and will be used for the purchase of food and medical supplies exclusively from the United States, including corn, wheat, and soybeans from our great American farmers. These are the things that are desperately needed by Iran. Now, Donald Trump is lying about everything he said right there. That is not in the agreement. That is not in the sanctions waiver from the Treasury Department, and Iran is not doing that. I'll give you another lie that Donald Trump posted this morning. He writes, 19 million barrels of oil flowed out of the Hormuz Strait yesterday, an all-time record. Oil prices are tumbling down and the world is a much safer place. Donald J. Trump. 19 million barrels is not an all-time record. The average last year was 20 million barrels. And hey, Donald, maybe you want to mention who is exporting those 19 million barrels of oil? You want to tell the public that it was mostly Iranian oil heading to Asia, and Iran is making billions and billions of dollars right now? And you may want to also tell people, Donald, that gas prices continue to go up right now as the strategic petroleum reserves continue to be drawn down. I mean, sure, people know this. Why don't you take a look at what the gas prices are in Ohio? Gas prices were rising to $3.99 today. How about in Florida? Gas prices actually increased today, $3.89. How about in Michigan? $4.29. So what happened was the strategic petroleum reserves dropped another 9 million barrels to 331.2 million, which is the lowest level of volume since 1983. And it hits a point where it reaches functional tank bottom, which is why you were negotiating from the ultimate position of weakness. Even the New York Post right now, Rupert Murdoch's rag, is mocking you. This is what the New York Post did. It's a fairly racist cover. They said Iran getting $10 billion oil boost from US before signing a full nuclear deal. Easy mullah. Even Murdoch is attacking you right now. This is what Iran is saying right now. This is from Iran's President Pezeshkian. The effectiveness of the talks depends on full commitment to the agreed obligations and their precise implementation. Progress on this path will be measured by practical adherence to accepted responsibilities. Statements outside the agreed text do not help advance negotiations. In other words, we are reducing everything to writing because we know you lie about everything, Donald. We're going to write out everything. The public will get to see it, and then we'll show what we are ultimately doing. Stop lying about the deal. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said at a press conference earlier today, regarding Iran's released assets, we will make decisions in whatever way best serves the country's interest. There are no restrictions in this regard. We're not required to buy American corn or American supplies or other produce from American farmers. We're not doing that. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson also said, we have no plans for the IAEA to inspect Iran's nuclear facilities that were damaged as a result of the enemy's aggression. We have not had any meeting with the Director General of the IAEA. And one of the most basic explanations of who's telling the truth here is that right there, which is, where is the Director General of the IAEA? Wouldn't the Director General make a comment? Yes, we're involved. Wouldn't that individual be involved in these talks? It's probably news to the Director General that they're involved. There's no representation at the technical talks taking place of IAEA. They were not invited to Switzerland. So you have that going on at the foreign ministry spokesperson level. You have the foreign minister, Araghchi, and MB Ghalibaf. They were in Muscat, Oman. And then Araghchi and Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, then went to Pakistan. I'll tell you what went down there. But Ghalibaf went to Oman after the Swiss talks. And then there was a joint statement by Iran and Oman saying that they will negotiate administration of navigation through Hormuz, including services, costs, and regional coordination. Tehran wants to convert wartime leverage into new and lasting regional arrangements. We have the joint statement issued right here by the Sultanate of Oman and the Islamic Republic of Iran. You see it right here. The Sultanate of Oman and the Islamic Republic of Iran held discussions in Muscat, Oman during the visit of Ghalibaf and Araghchi. They reaffirmed their support of their sovereignty over the territorial waters. They both said that. And then they said future administration of navigation and the services that will be provided in this regard and the costs associated with them in accordance with international standards. Also, when you read the MOU clearly says that Iran and Oman would be able to jointly administer it however they want. If they want to charge costs, that's permitted in the MOU. Now, as I noted before, you have dozens of tankers leaving the Strait of Hormuz, but the first armada of oil right now, it's Iranian oil. Over a dozen tankers laden with Iranian crude steaming east following the end of the U.S. blockade. Iran was ready to go with all of its ships, and it's pushing out dozens and dozens of ships right now. Let's talk about what Pakistan is saying right now. What happened? So after Araghchi visited Muscat, Oman, you see they're making strategic moves right now in Iran. They then go to Pakistan. They meet with Prime Minister Sharif. And here's what Prime Minister Sharif, the mediator, okay? Again, going back to the mediator. What does this is who the U.S. wants to mediate the dispute between the U.S. and the war, or the surrender by the U.S. and this catastrophic war against Iran. It's this guy, Prime Minister Sharif. It's also Field Marshal Munir. But here's what, and Qatar has been involved. But here's what Sharif says. There cannot be a double standard where some countries can have ballistic missiles and Iran should not. You cannot digest this kind of duplicity. In other words, the mediator says Iran gets its ballistic missiles. The mediator, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sharif, also says there are spoilers all over the world who want to scuttle this peace deal. They don't want the Iranian nation, a great nation, to come out of the ashes of war and touch the zenith of glory, referring to Israel. Sharif then says the MOU does not mention ballistic missiles. He also says, I'm very grateful to the Iranian leadership for having trust in Pakistan's ability to mediate with honesty. I want to assure you that as brothers, we will never let you down. We offer our deepest condolences on the killing of innocent Iranian brothers and sisters, including children whose numbers have reached into the thousands. Please convey my warmest regards to His Eminence, the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini. Thanks to his leadership, Iran has been able to achieve this MOU. As a result, a ceasefire with dignity and honor. And then you have Donald Trump and Trump regime officials calling up state regime media, which calls itself Fox, And on Fox, you have Trey Yingst basically saying, you know, look, a U.S. official responded directly to comments by Iran's spokesperson who said there were no plans to have the IAEA inspect Iran's nuclear facilities. And here's what the person told state regime media. The Iranian regime will say what they have to say for their domestic audience, but the fact remains that we've reached a major milestone towards permanently ending Iran's nuclear program, the U.S. official added. This is typical Trump projection. Referring to himself, Trump will say whatever he needs to say for his domestic audience, for Fox, for regime media who's writing this right now, who's posting this video. Trump is lying to all of the people in the United States because he wants to play the domestic audience and misrepresent what's actually in the agreement. This is what they said on Fox earlier today. You can see for yourself. Let's play it.
After Vice President J.D. Vance announced that Iran has agreed to allow International Atomic Energy inspectors into their country, President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning saying, in part, if they did not agree to this, there would be no further negotiations. Well, the Iranians today are going on the record saying they did not agree to this point. Take a listen.
We neither had a meeting with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, nor do we have any plan for the agency to inspect Iran's nuclear facilities damaged as a result of the U.S. military aggression and the Zionist regime. Fundamentally, there is no procedure in this regard.
Now, additional issues that have Donald Trump and his regime panicked. The Defense Department, which unlawfully calls itself the Department of War, is running out of money. U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense Steve Feinberg has informed congressional appropriators the Pentagon will now require $80 billion in supplemental funds to cover the cost of the Iran war. But I thought you guys said it only cost $20 billion. No, it's got hundreds and billions of dollars, probably in the trillions. We're learning this as well, that the purported American pilot of the U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle that was shot down over Iran in April, requiring that purported mission near Isfahan, said that when he was in the air, there were multiple Iranian drones hovering in the air, moving as one in a formation that resembled a jellyfish. Four sources familiar with the matter told CNN. Multiple drones interconnected and moving as one, with smaller drones below the bigger drones like legs. A source familiar with the pilot's account said, real alien shit. Another source described what the pilot witnessed as a minefield of drones in the air before that F-15 was downed. And this has people in the Defense Department very, very nervous right now. So with all of this going on, what else is the Trump regime doing? You've got Marco Rubio further threatening Cuba. Moving on to their next imperialist threats, or they've always been threatening Cuba, but here's what Rubio says. The situation in Cuba is devolving as the island's corrupt, brutal, and anti-American communist regime continues to prioritize its own total control over the freedom, opportunity, and basic well-being of the Cuban people. The Cuban military-controlled conglomerate GAESA has persistently served as the main vector for regime elites to steal the island's few resources, diverting them for repression. Now they use the words like vector and this. By the way, y'all are putting a blockade on Cuba. That's hurting the people of Cuba. You can say what you want about Cuban leadership, but right now the blockade that the U.S. has put on Cuba has been the main source of a lot of the suffering of what's happening by depriving people of getting resources that they need. Donald Trump also posting photos of the reflecting pool, the obsession with the reflecting pool while the American people are suffering. He posts fake pictures of this is what the reflecting pool looks like this morning. And then he says 6 people have been arrested and 7 people cited for the damage they've done to our reflecting pool. A 350-foot gash made by a very sharp knife of razors. Actually, numerous slashes over 350-foot length. It was purposefully and criminally done. Somebody had to work hard, probably in the dark of night, to create such a condition. It was a scuba diving, box cutting slasher, and that's what led to this algae. Or you're a failure. Everything you do fails. You lie about everything. And this reflecting pool situation of just paint it blue on the bottom while you drove over it and harmed the foundation with the motorcade, then did shoddy work, didn't put the filtration system in the right way, continued to get the water source from the Potomac. Maybe just basic facts and science is what resulted in the failure, which is what results in your failure all the damn time. And now here you are whining about the reflecting pool like the 2020 election loser that you are. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.